Welcome parents and flute students to how to make a sound on your flute, which is one of the hardest things to do when it comes to learning the flute. So today I would love for you to pretend to be a knight in shining armor. Knights are brave and daring, patient, and they persist. They never give up on their quest until they are successful. So today, your quest is to get not a bad sound on your flute, but a big, beautiful, and magnificent sound on your flute. So to do that, we need to know a little bit more about our face. Did you know that our face and neck has around 68 different muscles in it, which is completely crazy? And to play flute, we need to be able to deliberately control a lot of the muscles around our lips area that we've generally never really thought about before. So to do this, we are going to pull some silly faces. And I know it seems really silly, so try not to skip this step because it is important. If you need to shut the door and be alone in a room, that is totally fine, but just make sure you pull the silly faces. The first silly face we are going to pull, which is a face you could use to get a sound out of the flute, but you'll get a very bad sound out of the flute if you use this face. And that is the cheesy clown smiley face. So see if you can pull the biggest, cheesiest smile you have ever pulled. You ready? How's your cheesy smile? Fabulous. The next face we are going to pull is, some people call it a fish, some people call it a cow. I kind of think of it more as a fish. And fish have super duper pouty lips. You ready? They go. So you could get a sound out with a fish face, but you won't get a very nice sound with a fish face. The next face we're going to pull is a grandma face, and it's not just any grandma, it's a grandma who has lost her teeth. Kind of like a frog, I guess. Apparently you can get a sound out of the flute with that face, but it is not recommended because it will be a really terrible sound. The next face we are going to pull is the sad face. And finally, the lucky last face we're going to pull is a really subtle face. It's kind of like the face you pull when either your mum or your teacher ask you to do something that you really don't want to do, and you know, if you pull a proper like sad face, you'll get in lots of trouble. So instead you pull the slightest pout so that your teacher can't see but your friends understand what you are going through. And to pull this very slight pout face, you take your lips and you just purse them ever so slightly. It's so subtle. They just kind of come together with the slightest pout. And that is the face that you use to get a sound out on the flute. So next up, we are going to play a quick little game. It is pick the good flute face and pick the bad flute face. So a bunch of images are going to appear up on the screen. You will have about 5 seconds to go to say whether it is good or whether it is bad, and then you will be given the answer. Now these pictures were actually taken from the Kathy Blocky website, blockyflute.com, and they are used as part of her method book for flute. So I actually highly recommend the Blocky Beginner Flute book. If you're looking for a book, it's one of my go-to books. But back to our silly faces. So here's the first one. Fabulous. Next up, we are going to grab our trusty knight sword, because what knight doesn't have a sword? In our case, our sword is our finger. And what we have on our face is a groove just in our chin under our lip. That groove was made just for our knight sword, or what will be our flute. And what we are going to do is we're going to grab our knight sword and we are going to press it into our bottom lip. And you want to be able to feel your bottom lip curling slightly over your finger. And now we're going to have a go pulling our flute faces again. So with our finger there, we're going to pull our cheesy smiley face, our fishy moo cow face, our grandma face, and our pout face, which is just so subtle. And it's actually easier to pull the pout face with your finger here because you can feel your bottom lip as it slowly pouts over your finger. Alrighty, now that you've got your pout face, I want you to pause the video, take a photo of yourself with your trusty sword, pulling a pout face, and then print it out, stick it in your flute folio, and come back because we're going to do the next step. The next step is, have you ever noticed that some parts of our lips are dry and other parts are wet? It's kind of weird when you think about it. The insides of our lips are wet and the outsides are dry. And if you rub the wet parts together, you have to go kind of like this. You go, If they're a bit dry, you might need to lick them. But try not to lick the outside, because remember, we want the inside. We're going to imagine that this wet part of our lips is kind of like glue. So we have the gluey part of our lips together. We have the sword going under our chin. And then instead of opening our lips like moo, because if you open your lips, you're going to end up with a cow face. Moo. My mum makes the best cow noises. She grew up on a dairy farm. Completely irrelevant. And what we are going to do is just the air that we push through our lips the air is actually going to make a tiny little hole in the wet part of our lips. So we have our finger, we push it under, we have the gluey part of our lips together. I find if you rub your lips together sideways, you'll be like, yep, that's the gluey parts. And then you blow just like almost like you're saying the word poo, except you don't move your lips because they're glued together, and you just let the air break through. And it makes like a little p sound. I'm going to see if I can get up nice and close for you. And then I'm going to give you a sideways shot. And now we are up to the part that you have all been waiting for. We are going to grab just the head joint of our flute. And you will notice that on one part is thinner, that is the thinner, and the other part is thicker. We are going to put this thicker part where our finger was in that groove of our chin. And it's really important that you push it quite firmly into the groove. If you don't push it in firmly and you have it kind of like sitting kind of like that, you're going to have a really unstable flute sound. But if it's nice and firm, not so hard that you hurt yourself, but just against the lip so that it is super duper solid. And you want to have the bottom part of your lip, just like the bottom lip came over our finger a little bit, the bottom lip is actually going to cover a little slither. Some people say a third, some people say a quarter. I'm just going to say a little slither of the hole. The technical term is embouchure hole. It's French, it just means that basically. And then with our lips glued together, remember, rub them sideways, line it up. You want to be nice and center so you're in the middle of the hole. I find using a mirror is really, really helpful. And then you're going to use your air to break a little hole through your lips with the very so slight pout, like a, and you're going to blow. Now, you probably won't get a sound the first time, but remember, you are a knight, you are dedicated, you are determined, you are perseverant. So you're going to keep experimenting and keep trying. Sometimes if you are way too rolled in, like this, you won't get a sound. And other times, the opposite is also true. If you are way too rolled out, you won't get a sound. The hole needs to be facing up to the roof. Just a tiny little bit of your lip over the top and another reason why sometimes you won't get a sound is you're too smiley. Or you're too, what was the next one? You're too like a fish cow. Or you're too much like your grandma. Or you're too sad. But it's just that really subtle, tiny. Another reason why sometimes you don't get a sound out is you're too far to one side. And if you've ever blown across the top of a Coke bottle and gotten a sound out, playing the flute is actually exactly the same, because we aren't blowing directly into the hole, we are blowing across the hole. Good luck, keep going. Once you've got a consistent flute sound, so you can pull your flute up and just go like, pull it down, pull it up, pull it down, pull it up. I used to set the goal of trying to do it 10 times in a row. And if I do that every day for about 5 days, I can guarantee you by the end of the 5 days, you will be an expert at finding your flute sound. In the next video, we are going to look at some other fun activities you can do to help you strengthen these muscles and enjoy playing your flute sound. Hi guys, guess what? I am making a course all about flute and guitar pedals. So if you've ever wondered how I make my flute sound like this, or this, or any of the other crazy sounds you may have heard in some of my music videos, then this is the course for you. If you would like access to this course before the general public, then you need to join the email waiting list. There's a link down in the description below. As part of a member of the email waiting list, you will of course get access before everyone else, but you'll also get input into things in the course that work really well, things that could be made better, and there will be other sorts of like exclusive offers and all this behind the scenes stuff that is only available to those on the list, which is free to join. So like to not join it would be totally crazy. I know if someone was making this course and I was interested, I would totally be on the list. Anyhow, check out the link down below and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. See ya!